Hit the subscribe button to help the channel grow to 2K subscribers. It's free. Let's be honest, politics here is like a rugby scrum in a windstorm. Messy, unpredictable, and someone's definitely getting a boot to the face. But in the chaos amidst the scandals and the side-eyes, there have been some leaders who actually took a swing at making this country better. Some succeeded, some got kicked to the curb, and some, well, let's just say the struggle is real even when you're in charge. So get ready to dive into the stories of 10 politicians who dared to dream of a better South Africa, and what their fight cost them. And hey, I hope you've hit the notification bell as well. 1. Thabo Mbeki, the Pan-African visionary, with a hard edge. He was no Mandela, he didn't need to be. Thabo Mbeki was a sharp-minded economist and Pan-Africanist who pushed South Africa into global markets, cut deficits, reduced debt, and drove the African Renaissance. He stood tall on the international stage. But at home, his soft approach to inequality and his shocking denial of the HIV crisis cost lives. He was betrayed by his own party, forced out by the ANC in 2008 to make way for Jacob Zuma. His fall was ugly. His legacy? Even uglier to some. But the numbers say he fixed the economy. The politics ate him alive. And Mbeki? Let's just say he had a bit of a blind spot when it came to the whole inequality thing. In the end, his own party, the ANC, decided it was time for him to go. 2. No army, no title. Just a purple robe and a spine of iron. Archbishop Desmond Tutu stood at the gates of hell and opened the door to healing. He chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, exposing the horrors of apartheid not for revenge, but for redemption. He cried with the victims. He prayed for the killers. His voice saved this country from civil war. And when the new leaders lost their way, Tutu didn't stay silent. Tutu was never president, but he was the moral president we all listened to. This guy had more moral authority in his pinky finger than most politicians have in their entire careers. He stared down apartheid with nothing but a Bible and a wicked sense of humor. And when it was over, when everyone else wanted revenge, Tutu said, "Nah, fam, let's talk." He led the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, giving everyone a chance to speak their truth, to heal, to forgive. He didn't just want to end apartheid, he wanted to heal the soul of a nation. 3. Union boss turned billionaire, freedom fighter turned president. Cyril Ramaphosa outmaneuvered the corrupt elite to replace Zuma and vowed to clean house. He promised land reform, economic growth, and justice. And for a while we believed. But politics is war without bullets. And inside the ANC he's surrounded by knives. He's still standing, but barely. Some call him too soft, some call him too slow. But Cyril is still trying, and that in South Africa is a fight in itself. To President Cyril Ramaphosa has worn more hats than a haberdashery store. He promised us the world, an end to corruption, jobs, justice, the whole shebang. And for a minute there, we thought, this is it, Cyril's gonna fix it. But fam, fixing South Africa is like trying to parallel park a buffalo. It ain't easy. Is he making progress? Maybe. Is it enough? Jury's still out on that one. 4. No headlines, no drama, just results. Trevor Manuel served as finance minister for over a decade and kept the lights on. He stabilized the economy, kept debt down, and ensured grants reached the poor. While others chased slogans, he chased numbers. And the country grew. He left quietly. No scandal needed. His work spoke for itself. He was the finance minister for over a decade, and in that time, he became the Beyoncé of budgets. Flawless execution, every single time. He stabilized the economy, kept the rand from becoming toilet paper, and actually made sure social grants reached the people who needed them. And then, he just left. Legend. 5. You can hate him, but you can't ignore him. Julius Malema shook the system with radical fire. Give back the land, free the students, burn the system down if you must. And he didn't just shout. His voice forced the ANC to move. Free university, land expropriation debates, real shifts pushed by rage. But fire burns everything, even its wielder. He's faced court cases, hate speech charges, corruption allegations. Still, he roars. And in that roar is a truth South Africa cannot run from. This dude burst onto the scene like a Molotov cocktail at a garden party, shouting about land expropriation, economic freedom, and shaking up the status quo. He's been called a lot of things. A populist, a demagogue, a future president. But one thing's for sure, Malema is a force of nature. Whether he's the one to deliver it, well, that's a whole other story. 6. He stared down the wolves. Pravin Gordhan, as finance minister, refused to let the Treasury become a playground for the corrupt. He blocked deals. He exposed lies. He said no when everyone else said, "How much?" Zuma fired him at midnight. The markets crashed. The people protested. He was dragged through fake charges, called a traitor, but never wavered. Because when the wolves came for the money, he was the one man holding the gate. That was Pravin Gordhan's job as finance minister. He blocked dodgy deals, exposed shady characters, and basically said no to anyone who came knocking with their hand out. They tried to fire him, smear him, even arrest him, but Gordhan stood his ground. 7. Thuli Madonsela didn't need a gun, she had a pen. As public protector, she took on Zuma's Nkandla scandal and exposed how millions were spent on cattle crawls and swimming pools. She stood alone, labeled a traitor, threatened, smeared, but she never flinched. And when she said, "Pay back the money," the country roared with her. Thuli didn't just protect the Constitution, she made us believe in it again. As public protector, she was the ultimate defender of the Constitution, taking on corruption wherever she found it, even if it meant going up against the big guy himself, Jacob Zuma. Remember Nkandla? That whole scandal about Zuma upgrading his crib with taxpayer money? Yeah, Madonsela exposed that. 8. He was no hero, but he did the heroic thing. F.W. de Klerk was the last president of apartheid, and the first to tear it down. He unbanned the ANC. He freed Mandela. He knew his world would vanish, and he still signed the death warrant of white supremacy. It cost him power, it cost him legacy, but without that moment of courage, there would be no South Africa to argue about today. Let's be real, F.W. de Klerk was no saint. He was the last president of apartheid, a system built on oppression and inequality. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. And de Klerk? He did something truly remarkable. He chose to dismantle apartheid. He unbanned the ANC, released Mandela, and essentially signed the death warrant on his own world. 9. 27 years in prison, one chance at revenge, and he chose forgiveness. Nelson Mandela walked out of Robben Island and into history, not as a king, but as a servant. He gave us the Constitution, the Truth Commission, and a chance at peace. He stepped down after one term. No thirst for power, just purpose. He didn't fix everything, but he changed everything. Mandela didn't just make democracy possible, he made it human. He spent 27 years in prison, emerged without a trace of bitterness, and led South Africa out of the darkness of apartheid. He chose forgiveness over vengeance, reconciliation over retribution. Mandela wasn't just a president, he was a moral compass, a global icon, and a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, hope can triumph. 10. Imagine standing alone, in a room full of racists, decade after decade, fighting for people who had no vote, no voice, and no hope. Helen Suzman was the only anti-apartheid voice in parliament for 13 years. She visited prisoners, fought for basic rights, and shamed a brutal regime with sheer willpower. She was threatened, mocked, hated. Imagine being the only person in a room full of people who think you're wrong. Not just wrong, but dangerously, fundamentally wrong. That was Helen Suzman's life as the sole anti-apartheid voice in the South African parliament. She stood up to the architects of apartheid, challenged their racist laws, and gave a voice to the voiceless. So there you have it. 10 politicians, 10 stories of hope, heartbreak, and the never-ending struggle to build a better South Africa. Some left a legacy of economic growth, others a commitment to social justice. Some were flawed, some were fearless, but all of them tried to make a difference. We've come a long way, baby, but we've still got a long way to go. If they can do it, so can we.